Welcome to Moms with a Call. We're not here to preach, convert, or fix you. We're here to listen.
We're Mackenzie
and Rebecca, two women with messy stories, honest questions, and a quiet hope that maybe Jesus looks a lot more like love than we were ever shown. If you've ever wondered if there's a place for you in all of this, there is. Come, have a seat at the table. You're safe here. You're welcome here. Let's begin.
Before I dive into part 3 of my testimony, I just want to put a little bit of a trigger warning here. This testimony touches on topics like emotional abuse, family betrayal, religious hurt, prenatal and postpartum trauma, physical and mental health disorders, and suicidal thoughts and ideation. If any of these thoughts are tender for you right now, please take care of yourself as you listen. Feel free to pause, step away, or skip certain parts if you need to. My heart in sharing this is not to relive pain for yourself or myself, but to show you that there is truly no place that's too dark, too broken, or too messy for God to reach us. I pray that as you listen, you feel seen, known, and reminded that healing is real, even if it takes longer than you think. Alrighty, let's hop into part 3.
Throughout all of this, I'm really stressed out, right? I ended up gaining, I think in 8 months, I gained 80 pounds. And so I started losing my hair. Both Evan and I are really struggling with our relationship with God. I'm having really irregular periods. And then I ended up getting diagnosed with PCOS in, I want to say maybe November. And I was just like, I remember feeling relieved that there was finally an explanation for why I was dealing with all of this. But I remember feeling a pit in my stomach that it would be hard to conceive. And that's kind of what they told us. And they were like, you know what, if you want to have kids, we really recommend you start trying sooner rather than later. And so we were like, this is probably the worst time ever to start trying because we're in this horrible relationship with his parents, like this situation. At this point, we're still really hoping that it'll be reconciled. And so again, we're still thinking this is going to get better, but we ended up trying. I was like, you know what? I'm just going to pray about it. We're going to leave it. I know we're struggling with God right now, but let's just, do it. Let's just try and try to have a baby. And he got pregnant with Noah Jane in like right away that first month that I had been off birth control and like tracking my cycle. My cycles were really, TMI, but they were like between 38 and like 54 days long. And sometimes I wouldn't even have a period. But I was like doing a lot of nutrition work too. And so I was able to, the last 2 cycles, I was able to like kind of pinpoint how my body felt with ovulation. And so when we tried, I did it, we did it around that time. And by the grace of God, we conceived right away. And I remember just sobbing because I was like, oh my gosh, God, you are there. Like through this incredibly difficult season, look at like what you've given me in my life. This was like the darkest season of my life. And I didn't realize yet how much deeper I was actually about to fall. I remember still feeling like so. I loved family more than anything. I loved my family more than anything. I loved his family more than anything. Like, I'm such a family girl. And so to have this discord, I guess, or just issues within the family, I felt like a failure again. And especially as a woman, you feel like, you're supposed to be able to like carry the relationships for the men. And maybe that's a stupid Southern, cultural thing that isn't necessary. But, I felt like I was still somehow failing. And I felt like they were blaming me for this situation. They literally said that, but so I didn't feel like it was true. They were blaming me for this entire situation. And I was just trying to let Evan figure it out for himself. Like I was just trying to take a backseat to all of this, right? And so we weren't talking to them when we got pregnant with Noah. We were still taking some space. And this was like winter of 2021. And this like family situation was just so heavy on my heart. And, like I said, I'm a family person. So it just like kind of wrecked me not having his side of the family involved at all with our child. And so I remember talking to him being like, I feel like we should really tell your parents and maybe we open it back up, like maybe this will fix things. That kind of floated the idea of like reaching back out to share the news. And he was receptive. He was like, okay. He was a little weary. I was weary, obviously, too. But I was like, maybe we can just, ease back into it. And so I remember asking Evan, like, why don't you just start with a phone call and like just tell him we're pregnant? And so I was like, and then we go from there. Like, we don't have to jump straight into it. You don't have to be besties with them again. Like, I know you're still really hurt about everything. So let's just start slow. And that's what he did. And I don't think they knew how to start back slow, which, being a parent myself now is, I get it. Like, you love your kids and you love your kids hard. And so they were all in on Noah. They were so excited. And I remember being like, oh, yay, God, like, thank you. Like, maybe this is like, this is going to fix things. And now we're going to get back on track and I can start focusing on my relationship with you. And again, I'm still lost, right? Like at this time, like I thought I had found him and then I didn't. And then I thought I did and then I didn't. And it's just so hard. And so that's when I started praying a little bit more. And then they would say things like, God had finally given them the girl they never had. And just really odd things. They would buy her a lot of stuff, but I'm like, you know what? That's normal grandparent stuff, right? Like they're just so excited. And like they were texting, they just, they were going all in. And then they framed her ultrasound picture and put that throughout the house. And I was like, you know what? This is like, they're just really excited. That's all I can think of. And so I was like, you know what? Maybe I'm letting my past red flags like come back to light. Our past issues like make me feel a little hesitant or worried. So I just kept like being like, Lord, just give me a sense of calm. And I ended up being so sick with Noah. Hyperemesis gravidarum, which if you don't know what that is, it is extreme morning sickness. From the time I was like 6 weeks pregnant to literally the second she came out. So I was still vomiting the entire time that I was in labor. Like 3 times I vomited while I was in labor. I literally was vomiting every single day, multiple times a day. I lost over 30 pounds while I was pregnant. I was in the hospital 5 times on IVs, ended up at 35 weeks, got diagnosed with preeclampsia, had to have like the steroid shot to rapidly develop her lungs in case they had to deliver her. That almost happened at 32 weeks. I was like ill, not well, really having a hard pregnancy. And so I couldn't travel by air at all. They were pretty upset by that. I also don't think they cared about the extent of like how sick I was and like how severe it was and like how rough it was on my kidneys and my life in general and Noah's life, how dangerous it was. And so they ended up they wanted to throw a shower. And my mom was throwing me a shower, my mom, my sister, and my grandma. And so I was like, Mom, why don't you ask our in-laws? I was like, why don't you ask her to throw out, or my mother-in-law, like, why don't you ask her to throw it with her? And she was like, okay. So she reached out and was like, do you want to just throw it with me? And she's like, oh, no, thank you. I'm going to have my own shower. And we thought that meant like she was just going to have like a separate family shower for us here or something. But long story short, they ended up coming. So I thought, oh, they just don't want to come to our shower. And so she ended up coming out to our shower. And then my other grandparents came out too, supposedly, but then they were sick and decided to fly back home immediately after taking a COVID test. So either they never came and they lied about coming, or they had COVID. And that's why they had to fly back immediately. So then they got on a plane with COVID. I don't know which one's worse, to be totally honest. Probably the COVID one. So I hope that they just lied and they never actually came. But yeah, I thought that they had COVID. I never thought that they would be lying about coming out. So I thought they had COVID and then they were exposed to it. And so they still came out and came to the shower. And so I was pissed because I was just out of the hospital. And yeah, I was like, how could you do this? Like, are you freaking kidding me? my blood pressure was terrible. I had preeclampsia. Like I just got diagnosed with it, or it was I was just borderline. I hadn't actually been diagnosed with it, but I was so close. And I was like, what the heck is wrong with you? I don't want to go back to the hospital. And then his dad was upset that he wasn't invited to the shower and that it was a women's shower, which again, I know there's couple showers for babies, but I don't want to get into the nitty gritty. This gets drama filled. But I guess his parents decided that they wanted to look at houses in our neighborhood and like surrounding neighborhood. And I remember Evan being like, he came back and he was like, oh my gosh, like they want to build a house like basically in our neighborhood. And I was like, oh, okay, that's not really taking it slow now, is it? I don't know how to, it just got progressively worse. Like they couldn't, they really just, and I was like, maybe they just miss you and that's it. Like we were trying to look at this from every single angle, right? Like we were like, surely they are not just absolutely crazy people, right? Like you grew up with these people, that you love them, right? Like, yeah. So anyway, we blew it off, but they kept saying really weird things like Noah was theirs or their baby, or they're like, we bought so much stuff for Noah today. We have a room full of things like, for her, like we're going to have a nursery at our house, and like kind of acting like it was their child. And then they literally got clothing that had her name on it that they wore. So like there were shoes that said Noah on it that the dad would wear. And I was like, okay, it was just so strange. And so then I ended up getting a text from his mom, and she's like, hey, I know that you don't want people at the birth, but that like doesn't, or like at the house right after, but that doesn't apply to me and your mom, right? Because we planned on coming out a couple weeks before your due date and then staying for like 3 months, 2 to 3 months after. And I was like, are you kidding? Like I was trying to like not freak out. But I was like so blown away. I prayed about it. I was like, Lord, I know I've been struggling with you in our relationship, but like help me navigate this. At this time, like I am listening to worship music all the time because I am so anxious. I'm having such a hard pregnancy. I'm really trying to lean on the Lord. And again, I don't know how, I'm not crazy strong in my faith, but I feel like I had nothing else to lean on. Evan and I were kind of fighting a lot because of all this crazy crap happening with his parents. And so, I was like, I prayed about it. I spoke with my mom, and then I replied in a way, like, I felt like I was so nice. And I was just like, thank you so much for that generous offer. Like, I know you're so excited. And I was trying to really put myself in her shoes because this is like your first grandbaby. I get it. Because my mom was so excited too. Like, she was so excited about it. And I was, trying to make sure, I was like, I really just want it to be, like, I literally didn't even want my mom there. My mom was not, no one was at the birth except for Evan and myself. And so my parents didn't even meet her until a week after. Like, I just wanted it to be so, I just did not feel supported by his side of the family. I felt like a really weird feeling. And so I was like, I think we just need to like take a step back. I'm just not really comfortable. But I didn't say that in the message. I was just like, we're going to have you come out as soon as we can. Like, I just don't know how I'm going to feel. I've had such a hard pregnancy and I just need, I don't want to say space because obviously that would trigger them from the time before, but I just needed, time. And also, I plan on breastfeeding. And so, I'm not really comfortable with like men being around while I'm breastfeeding. Yeah, she didn't reply to that. And I think that was the last text she ever sent me. But yeah, like I said, I'm like listening to worship music constantly. We started going to a new church. I was leaning so heavily on the Lord, like, but I could not feel him anywhere. I felt like he was gone. He had like gone silent on me. And I was so angry that he encouraged me to open up this door again, only to be in a worse position. Like, I remember sitting in prayer, literally screaming, like, why am I here? Why is this happening? How am I going to navigate this family with a freaking child in the mix? Like, I ended up having to be, induced because of all the health issues at 37 weeks. Like, it was a blessing that I could even make it to 37 weeks. I was on bed rest for 2 or 3 weeks before that. But we decided not to tell, his side of the family because we were just fearful that they would just pop up because they just did not understand any of the things we were asking. And they were actually offended and upset and pissed that we had our own thoughts of how our pregnancy and our family should go. And I think they just felt like they were being pushed out, and they just, I guess they kept saying they wanted equal treatment as my parents. And I don't know what the impression they were under, but like, I mean, I see my parents like probably once a month, but like we were spending way more time with his family than mine. And so I was just so confused by all of that. And I'm crying all the time, being pregnant. It's just like, Lord, such a, uh, women are strong. Let's just say that. And so I ended up being induced, and I literally had such a great birth story, like such a wonderful birth in Noah Jane Jevnikar. She is just the light of our life. Like she came out 6 pounds, 5 ounces. 6:34 in the morning. The best time of my entire life. And it's like, that's when I heard the Lord again be like, hey, I'm here. And my spirit is in you and is in this baby. And so I was like, okay. I was like, Lord, please help me navigate this, right? And so, I remember being like, you should probably, tell your parents later that day. And he was so nervous too. And so he told them, and they were like, what time was she born? And he froze and he said 6:34. And they're like, oh, PM? Certainly you wouldn't have waited this long to tell us. And he was like, yeah. And he just lied, I guess. And I don't know. They ended up sending me a text that was like, thank you so much for birthing our sweet angel. And I was so thrown off by that, because I was like, our sweet angel, like, okay. And so I was like, Lord, please give me the strength to push through this. They wanted to know when they could come out. And of course, like, we were like, okay, like maybe, I think we ended up giving them a date like 2 weeks out. I was really nervous because they were in Arizona and COVID again was still rampant. They weren't vaccinated. I was having everybody from out of town take tests regardless anyway. I really was so nervous about it. I wanted them to kind of quarantine, which was a very delicate topic because they were very of the mindset that it was all fake news. And so we were like, okay, just come out like two-ish weeks after. Like I said, nobody saw her. It was just Evan and I for that first week, and it was great. And then my brother he had broken up with his girlfriend, and he was having a really tough time. And then my mom had come out that first week, and I just really wanted my mom, And so I was like, she came at that 1 week point, and I guess we had posted something on Snapchat. My brother did. He posted a picture holding Noah. We don't share our kids' faces for a reason. And so obviously her face wasn't in it, but I guess the grandma, like Evan's grandma, had like screenshotted it or something and sent it to Evan's parents or his parent. I don't know what happened. They saw it somehow. My brother, who is 17 at that time, maybe 16, I don't even know. They saw that. He was 17, and they were like freaking out. So they called Evan, screaming at him, like freaking out, saying that was their blood. They were missing out on this sweet, like bonding, like skin to skin bonding time. I mean, they just lost their marbles. And Evan was like, it's really hard for me to defend you and like say these things, like, advocate for you, not defending them against me. He's just saying defend like to himself. And he's like, when you're saying things like this, like they felt like they had ownership over our daughter. It was the most insane, sick feeling I've ever felt with that. And this was like, I think they called us like 10 p.m. Our newborn, she's 1 week old. And I'm crying. Like, I mean, I'm crying. Then Noah starts crying on like when they're screaming on the phone. Like, it is just such a mess. And we are struggling so much. And I ended up I realized, I had some flowers that were from friends and family. And I don't know why I did this, but I looked at the little name tag on the dried flower one, because she was like, oh, I got the dried flower bouquet, or she had texted us that or something. And so I was like, oh, okay, like, let me look at the name tag or like the little note. And she literally had sent the flowers to Noah, not to me. She was like, Noah, we're so, like, I can't even remember what it said, but it was like, we love you so much. We're so glad you were born. Like, thanks for being born into the world. Like, nothing to do with me. Like, these people hated me. And I don't know what I ever did. I literally did nothing other than the only thing that I think could kind of like they were upset by it was maybe me wanting a little bit of space, like right after I had her, like that week or two. But I had such a hard pregnancy. Like I was really struggling with it. Like I know I don't need to justify it. But so then this sent me down this shame spiral of like, what did I do wrong? Like, why do they hate me so much? Like, I don't understand. And so then Evan is, he is wrestling with this. We're still trying to adjust to having a new baby. Why wasn't coming out at the 2-week point good enough? Why did they need to see Noah before my parents saw? Like, why is it a competition? And then I started getting bombarded on Facebook with posts. And these posts were saying, I would be tagged in them literally. And I thought I was going insane. But then they would delete the comment or the tag. So I don't know who did it, but I found a bunch of emails that proved this, that had literally been like, you've been tagged in a post. And then I would go to that post and it'd be deleted, but it was like, I was a narcissist, that I was demonically possessed, that I was an ungrateful child. They would literally tag me in these things on their Facebook pages and then delete the tag, but keep the post up. And I would look like a creep. I literally thought I was losing my mind. And so, I just felt crazy. And I just started going down this huge postpartum spiral. And so their visit was like still on at this point. But remember, they like called us freaking out, crying, all of that. We weren't sure if they were actually gonna like still come out after that. At this point, I'm going to my midwife and they were so concerned because there's that like little, it's not called Chattis. I think that's the pediatric one, but there's some little questionnaire you take to see like what scale you are on like postpartum depression. And I was like, whatever score it was, they were like, we feel like you might need to go inpatient essentially, like after talking to me. So they prescribed me Xanax and they were really nervous that I was going to have like a psychotic break essentially. I was talking to my therapist and I am just struggling. And I just remember being so upset and I thought, you know what, like they're upset at me and I'm the problem and maybe it's better. And I think this is the postpartum talking and the devil talking, but I was like, you know what, maybe it's better that if I'm not here, And I just remember sitting in the bathroom just wondering, like, why am I here? Like, should I be here? Like, I'm ruining these people's lives by just existing. And then it was like, God, like, showed me Noah's face again. And they were like, he was like, no, you have a baby now. And this is not me. You are not ruining anyone's life. You are a child of mine. And I love you. And I ended up talking to my mom and she came back and stayed with us for a little while. And looking back, I see how beautiful the Lord was in that moment, like giving me like a sense of peace and hope in that time, like things were going to get better. And so we ended up seeing a marriage counselor, like couples therapist, and she was faith-based. And so basically she helped us see like they were throwing a lot of scripture and God in our face, and it was not the Lord, like it was the devil. And so we like needed to protect our family, which is just us three. And if they couldn't get on board with that, then we needed to reassess the relationship. And so, obviously I'm still struggling. At this point, Evan decided, he was like, you know what? I can't do this anymore. I have to choose my family. And they've made it impossible for me to make any other decision. So he cut off contact. And that was in October of 2022. To be honest, like I'm still recovering from it. He's still recovering from it. But what happened after we cut off contact was just next level. I've never been harassed before in that way. They started sending packages. They had friends reaching out, friends sending packages. They were texting my parents. They were just saying the most horrible stuff. They actually started calling all of Evan's friends from college. And I remember Evan being literally, this is like full-blown horror movie stuff. Again, I'm not going to get into all the details here, but I remember Evan looking at me on this like long drive we had. And he was saying, I'm worried that my parents would try and take her. And they mentioned something about grandparent rights. And my stomach just like stank because it like unlocked the worst fear, right? Like as a mom, like the thought of losing your baby is just, so what's supposed to be like the happiest point of my life, I feel like I was really robbed of. And so I developed really horrible postpartum OCD. And I got to the point where it's like so hard to talk through this. Yeah, I'm sorry. But this is why I'm talking about it, because so many people go through these things. And you feel so alone, but you're not alone because I was right there with you. And so I remember I had such bad postpartum that I couldn't even bathe my own child because I was worried that I was going to become possessed. I couldn't even, there was like the weirdest thing. I couldn't walk down the stairs without the socks on. I couldn't walk down the stairs with socks on because I was scared I was going to slip and then she would fall, and then she'd have shaken baby syndrome, and then CPS would be involved, and then his parents were going to like come in and try and take her from me. And I felt, but that time before when I felt like I shouldn't be here, it was more of like, I just was breaking down. It wasn't necessarily suicidal. I just felt like I shouldn't be here. It was like at this point, I felt like there was no way out. I had never been suicidal until that point. Like I was like at my rock bottom. And I just felt like they were never going to leave me alone. This was never going to end. The harassment wasn't going to stop. And it just got to the point where we ended up having to send a cease and desist as a prerequisite to filing a protective order. I remember being on my hands and knees praying to the Lord to hear me because I couldn't take this anymore. And I felt like he was so quiet. And I didn't know why. And maybe what they were saying was true. Maybe I'm the problem. If I took myself out of this, like it would all stop. Like maybe I am a narcissist. Like maybe I am demonically possessed. Maybe what they're saying is true. What if I am?
This is a really, really deep and dark spot in my testimony. And it's a difficult one to stop on, but I think it's really important because I am blaming myself for a lot of the things that are occurring. And I'm really, truly feeling like God is punishing me for maybe how I lived my life before or for not being close to Him. And I think this is such a common thought that we as Christians have. And I just want to put it out there that the Lord does not punish. He never, and I think I end up actually talking about this with Rebecca in our breakdown of either this episode or the next one. But the Lord is not a punisher. He is only full of grace and love. And so anyone who's listening to this and maybe hears that, again, this is a hard spot to pause. Just know that if you felt this way before, you are not alone. I was right there alongside you. And there is a light at the end of the tunnel.
Okay, so the part 3, we talk about PCOS.
Yes.
Okay, and that's where this kind of starts. PCOS.
Well, we dive into like the whole parent thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, No, because no, yeah.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
PCOS, you're trying to get pregnant with Noah, but you find out you have PCOS.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have the hypermesis.
Hyperemesis.
Hyperemesis. I mean, I
Hyperemesis.
should have
I was
just
right. I was right.
yeah, I
Okay,
should have
okay.
just trusted you.
I did wrong. Like that. I was like, shit, did I say it wrong? We
Hey.
were in the medical field. I feel like
I didn't hear about hypermesis. I'm is that what is it?
hyperemesis. Hyperemesis.
Hyperemesis. Hy-
Hyperemesis.
hyperemesis.
Emesis.
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 Emesis. Okay. Can we leave this part in?
Okay, now that we keep going over hyperemesis.
Okay.
That was my extreme morning sickness. I'm glad we can laugh without it.
I'm so sorry. It's not funny.
It is now.
I know that was terrible. Okay, so just gonna rock and roll right into this next
It's part 3.
Yes. So you're deciding you want to start a family, and
Yeah.
you're
Well,
diagnosed.
actually, not even. Like,
No.
I just was having a bunch of health issues. So I had gained like 80
Oh.
pounds after our wedding.
And did you maybe chalk it up to like the stress of what was going on with the family, or
Yeah.
did you know something was like going on?
I felt something was wrong. My periods were also really irregular. Like I was getting them anywhere from like 30, I think it was like 38 days to 54 days
Oh wow,
apart. Like
yeah.
that was a range. Like that year, I think I only had 8 periods. Yeah,
Wow.
I know.
Yeah. Which some would be like, oh my gosh, consider yourself lucky. But it's like, no, that's not.
No, because they were like really painful.
Yeah.
They were, and then the weight gain, the fatigue, my hair was thinning.
Gosh.
And so I had Hashimoto's as well. And so I
Okay.
thought maybe it was flaring up. Well, actually at this time I thought I only had hyperthyroidism. And we need Kelly Bear here.
Yeah.
Give us all these names. And so I was doing like I was taking my medication. I thought I only had hypothyroidism, like it's under producing. And so I ended up going to an endocrinologist, got diagnosed with Hashimoto's. But he was like, that doesn't explain all the weight loss, like maybe 10 pounds, but not, and maybe some of the hair thinning, but it doesn't explain everything else. And
So you lost weight. You didn't gain weight?
no, I gained 80 pounds. He's like,
okay.
it explains maybe 10 pounds of gain.
Oh, but not 80.
But not 80.
Okay.
He was like, that's more than so he thought I had Cushing's.
Oh, yeah.
And so he was like, well, maybe like, let's look at this. So he did like cortisol tests. I like spit in a tube. That came back negative, which thank goodness. I was like, that's horrible. I really did not want to have that, obviously. And so they were trying to figure out, they were like, well, do you have hair growth? And I was like, hair growth? No, my hair is thinning. But I didn't understand. I thought that meant like hair, hair. I didn't think they meant like body hair or like facial hair.
Okay.
And they're like, do you have a beard? And I was like, no, I don't have a beard. But I do get like, now it's a little better, but I do get like a hair for here sometimes, a couple hairs here. I would have like extra body hair. Like it just depended on
Not talking about peach fuzz.
no, like black hairs.
Oh, okay.
Mhm.
Okay.
Like, and it wasn't a lot, but I would get them. And so I didn't know that's what they meant.
Right.
So I was like, no. They're like, okay, well, we're not even going to test your testosterone or your.
I feel like such a basic panel
Right.
run. I feel, and I don't want to get into like all the medical stuff, but
I
like,
know.
shouldn't we be doing hormone panels on women annually?
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree.
Side note.
Yeah, so I ended up going to like a holistic practitioner because they were like, well, we can't help you. And I was like an endocrinologist.
Could not tell you.
They actually were like, well, maybe it actually is your diet. And I was like, at this point, I think I was eating like
And how
800 calories a
discouraging
day.
did that make you? Did it make you feel discouraged?
Yeah, they were basically like, I was like, well, do you think I'm lying and eating like a sleeve of Oreos before every meal and like eating Reese's in the middle of the night? Like
yeah.
Not lying to you. Like I'm literally at this point, I was in such a calorie deficit.
And still rapidly gaining weight. Yes.
Yeah. And turns out I was like starving myself, which was putting my body into fat storing mode. And then because of that and all my that's probably a whole other episode, but I ended up seeing a holistic practitioner that ordered like a full lab panel. And I still remember going to LabCorp and like getting that whole panel done. And, or no, I think it was like any lab test now, because I guess holistic practitioners don't really have like in-network lab.
Right.
Like you have to go get your labs done.
Yeah.
And so I remember getting that done, and sure enough, my like testosterone was all off, all crazy. It was super high. My estrogen was off. My, I want to say my LH was off too. Is that the one with your ovulation? I have no idea. I need to go back and look, but one of them, maybe either FSH or my LH because they did a couple different, like I had to go at different times, like in my cycle to like look at my levels. And one of either LH or FSH was off. I can't remember. And so they were like, well, they're like, have you ever gotten a pelvic ultrasound? And I said, I had previously. And they're like, were there any cysts? And I was like, no, there were no cysts. And they were like, okay, that's not uncommon, actually. I think it's something like 50%, and I might be wrong on the statistic exactly, but 50% of people with polycystic ovarian syndrome actually don't have active cysts all the time.
Yeah.
And so I ended up getting another ultrasound at another point in my cycle, and I did have a very small cyst. So they were like, but it was only one. And so they're like, because of your labs, because of your symptoms, because of all of this, like, we're going to go ahead and diagnose you with PCOS. So this is actually when I started seeing my midwives, and they were great. It was like a joint midwife and OB practice. There were doctors and midwives there.
And this was just preparation for, like, once you got the diagnosis, were you like, okay, we need to start getting prepared for the day that we do want.
My midwife was like, if you have PCOS, like before it all came back positive, she was like, I'm not trying to scare you, but do you want kids? And I was like, yeah, I want kids. And she's like, well, personally, I would start trying sooner rather than later if you can, just because one, we know the older you get,
the harder
it is. But then two, with PCOS, we don't know how long it's going to take you to conceive. And so I was like, oh my gosh, okay. I feel like I need to start trying like right now.
Yeah.
And so I knew we wanted kids.
And you guys were married for how long at this point?
Almost a year.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So I think it was like the fall. I was going through that all in the summer. So like July, August. And then I got officially diagnosed, I think in September or October. And then I think it was in September, I started doing like diet changes and lifestyle. It was like PCOS, like anti-inflammatory diet and eating, because my body was just so inflamed and my immune system was in overdrive. And so I was doing that, and I was doing this like corrective, like trying to heal it, because they were like, we need to just the treatment was to put you on birth control.
Interesting.
And I was thinking,
and you're like, what? But I
want to have a baby, and they were like, oh, well then don't go for birth control. And I was like,
okay,
but how am I going to cure it? And they're like, oh no, you can't cure it.
Oh no.
They're like, we can try like nutrition. And so that's why I went the nutrition route.
So you basically can't cure it, but you can keep it managed.
Yeah.
Okay.
Supposedly. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
And so I was like, okay, so I had like kind of tracked my cycle naturally. And the reason I think I got off birth control once I got married, and like hormonal birth control, you're still using other methods, but I got off hormonal birth control. And so they think that was suppressing my PCOS because I was on it for like 10 years. And so they think that was suppressing and like keeping everything at bay. So then when I got off it, all of my problems
symptoms came up.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And so I've heard of some people saying it's like birth control induced PCOS, and it's just like post birth control. And then, after a year or two of it, you outgrow it.
Your body kind of gets back to, well, I mean,
but that's anecdotal. I don't know if that's actually proven, but I do still struggle with weight and like just hormone, like, I mean, hot flashes, hormone. It's like my mom and I are going through the same thing.
Yeah.
And she's 50 something.
Like, get
So
our fans
we
out.
gotta get our fans out. Yeah. But yeah, anyway, so I was going through that. So we decided to, but at the same time, we're living all of this stuff with Evan's parents. And I this is like prime right in the middle of, I think, Evan deciding he didn't want them to come to his thesis because we had just moved into the house and we made the loan work by the skin of our teeth. We were able to get the 3% or 3.5% required for the loan. And yeah, it was just really hard to live all of that. And too, if I was in my faith, like I'm not in a great place with my faith, but like going through all this stuff, I was like, Lord, please just help me to be able to have a baby.
Yeah.
And I was like, I know we're not good, but we're not bad.
I can be.
I know. And so I was like, please, like, help me. I know I've always wanted to be a mom. And so the thought of like not being able to scared me
Yeah.
so much. And it was like, I don't know. I just was like, you know what? And then going through all this stuff with Evan's family was really hard on me too, because I'm such a family person. Like, I just love family.
Yeah.
And so, like, and two, I've not even been a wife a year. Like, I don't know my role in this, right? Like, in Evan's trying to navigate this, and I'm trying to just stay out of it. I'm really trying to figure out, like, where I fit in, like, where my opinion is needed and where it's not. And I really am trying to leave this to him and just support him. And, like, he's having a really hard time with everything, but then I'm also having a really hard time with, like, health-wise. And so we're just struggling in like communication. We were fighting so much. And I was like, should we even have a baby right now? This is crazy. Like, why would we? And then I was like, but I just felt like we should. And I was like, you know what, Lord, I'm just going to try and like
Leave
give
it
it
up
to
to
you. Yeah. And so we ended up trying I had prepped. So from like September to December, what is that, like 2 months, 3 months? I was doing all of like nutrition. I had tracked I was on that like new diet or whatever, and the anti-inflammatory diet, and that had helped me. I had a period at day like 38 or 40 twice, like from that time period. And so I was like, oh my gosh, wait, that's the most consistent I've ever had period. I think, and I had gotten really in tune with my body at this point. I was like, I think I am ovulating. Because I was testing just to see. And so I was like, you know what? After Christmas, let's just try, and I'm going to leave it to you. And I didn't track anything. By the grace of God, we got pregnant right away.
Noah.
With Noah.
Noah girl.
Noah J.
Oh.
Yeah.
And so that leads us into the hyperemesis.
Yes.
And I'm only laughing because
what just
I
happened.
practice, the practicing, because that is not to be taken lightly.
No,
And
it's so hard.
to be quite frank, and correct me if I'm wrong, I don't think a lot of women even know
what
about
it is.
it.
Yeah.
I certainly didn't. I had a friend who went through it, and that was the first I ever even heard of that.
It is debilitating.
It seems like it. Like, I can't even imagine.
I think it was my first pregnancy. And so I didn't really know anything else. And I think that was almost a blessing.
So were you like, maybe this is just what morning sickness is? Or were you like, no, something is seriously wrong?
I thought I had food poisoning at first because I was in Nashville for my sister's some birthday. I can't remember. I was with my friend Haley, and I had gone out to eat with them, but I was so tired. I was only like 7 weeks, I think. And I was like, Haley, can we go back? Because I'm so tired. Like, I just want to go lay down. And she was like, yeah, girl, lay in the bed with you. And so we went back, and I was like, oh, I don't feel good. And I threw up. And I was like, but it was at night. I feel like people don't talk about that. It's not just in the morning.
Yeah.
And I was like, I was so sick from then on out. Like, and I was so sick even on our flight home. I was like, I have food poisoning. Like, there's something wrong. Like, but it never went away.
Did you know you were pregnant at this point? Okay.
I did know I was pregnant. And that's why my mom was like, maybe it's morning sickness. Because my mom was on that trip too. And she's like, maybe it's morning sickness. I feel like morning sickness doesn't always come in the morning.
Right.
And
That's just what they call it.
But then my mom was like, but I didn't really have any. So it is probably food poisoning. And because I was like, well, Mom, not everything that you have means that I'm going to have it.
Yeah.
So yeah, I ended up I didn't officially diagnosed with it until like 26 weeks or something crazy like that.
Like well into your second, because they
like,
like,
wouldn't even give me Zofran until 12 or 13 weeks in. I don't know why, to be honest. With Forrest, that was like,
immediately
give it to me. And I was like,
Did you have it with Forrest?
I did. I actually did acupuncture with him, and that helped so much. I did have it. Not extreme. I had morning sickness, and I was pretty sick, and I was still throwing up like every day for the first like 13 to 15 weeks. But then acupuncture helped so much. Like the first 3 days after I go to acupuncture, I would only throw up like once a day.
Wow.
Versus like every day or every few hours. Yeah. And I was doing pressure points too. So that was really helping. I was doing like ginger tea and some other herbal mixture. It was not completely herbal because you have to be careful with what you take when you're pregnant, but it was like ginger and something else. And that mixed with this. And then I was on another supplement, and that helped a lot with my nausea. And I was eating. With Noah, I didn't know that you're supposed to but I was I don't think I could have eaten, to be totally honest. Like with Forrest, I forced myself, the second I would wake up, I would put a cracker in my mouth.
Just to get it in. Yeah.
Because that would help a ton. Whereas I didn't really know that with Noah. And yeah, so I just, extreme morning sickness, I would not wish that on anybody. It's truly like a chronic, it made me really, really appreciate and just have so much sympathy or empathy for people with chronic illness and chronic disease, because I just learned to live with it, and I still had to work and function. And, I would literally be in a meeting and I'd be like, oh, hold on 1 second. I need to go throw up, pause my computer, go throw up, come back. And it was so hard.
Did you have to be hospitalized? I know that happens.
Yeah, I had to be hospitalized. I only had to be admitted for dehydration and these stuff once. But I had to go to the ER for fluids and to get other medication by IV. I want to say 3 or 4 times, because I couldn't keep food down for 3 days.
Oh,
I know.
gosh.
I know. It was horrible.
And they're like, the baby's fine.
Yeah, she was smaller.
Yeah.
She was on the small side, but she wasn't growth restricted.
Right.
Which was, which was such a blessing. I was so nervous about that because I lost 30 pounds. But honestly, it was kind of a blessing that I had gained 80. So I had extra to lose.
If you want to look at it like that.
Yeah. And so it wasn't detrimental to her health at all. It just sucked for me. And I delivered her 30 pounds less than I conceived her at.
Wow.
Which is wild.
Yeah. Wow. But how scary.
Oh, it was horrible. And I would just sleep. I would have to call out of work, and thank goodness I was done corporate at this time. I didn't know my own business. And so I just had the best ever. She was incredible. She's like, do you want to just take the day? Take it off. Do you have any more work to do? And I was like, no, I finished it. And she's like, just go take it out. And I was like, okay.
Yeah.
So that was really hard going through that. And then also dealing with all the family stuff at the same time. They just did not understand. I tried to tell them the severity of it, and they did not. His mom at one point was like, well, at least you're skinny. At Evan's graduation, she's like, well, there's benefits to throwing up all the time. And
Not
I was like,
when you're growing a baby, or I don't know any benefits to throwing up ever. Especially not when you're growing a baby.
No. And it was very triggering for me too, because, I actually didn't even touch on this in my testimony at all, but I had an eating disorder in college. I was bulimic.
Oh my gosh.
And so then also to hear that
Yeah.
while I'm like throwing up and I don't want to be,
Throwing up.
I was like, oh my gosh.
I'm so sorry.
Yeah. I know she didn't mean
Mean it.
it that way. Like, well, maybe she did. I don't know. But I don't think she did. She probably just meant it like trying to be positive or funny.
Mhm.
But
Or like not knowing what to say, and then you just throw out an awkward comment and you're like, "Ooh,
I was like, ugh.
no, that
Yeah,
didn't
no,
land."
that did not land. And it's just they like did not care about me being in the hospital or me being like they just did not, they were just irritated that I wasn't able
Well,
to do what they wanted to do.
oh yeah, because you couldn't like physically do
No.
these
I
things.
like couldn't go. I mean, I remember after Evan's graduation was one, and also we're like trying to rekindle this relationship at this time, like
Mhm.
truly because of me. I'm not trying to toot my own horn, but
Toot
like
toot.
I was the one that was like, Evan, I think we should tell your parents and I think we should like talk to them again.
Mhm.
And he's like, oh, like
He
he
had
was burned. Yeah, he
hesitations.
was so
Yeah.
nervous, but I was like, well, I want them to know their like I want Noah to know her grandparents.
Mm.
And he was like, I mean, yeah, I do too. I just like don't know how to get past this.
Yeah.
And so he's like, well, and then he got on board and he's like, okay. And so, you know, they didn't understand how to have a relationship, start over a relationship. They
Mhm.
just thought it was going to pick right up where it left off.
There was no repair.
No repair. Well, they never
Mhm.
apologized. They, you know, I think they just saw no wrongdoing on their part. They felt like they were owed an apology. And so we did. We
Mhm.
were like, look, we're so sorry that, you know, that came across the way that it did. We never intended to hurt you at all. And because they were like, well, we want an apology. And so we gave them that. And then they still didn't give us an
Yeah.
apology. And we were trying to move past it. And Evan was like, I don't even want an apology anymore. I just want an acknowledgement
Sure.
of like, this
Can you hear me?
happened.
Yeah.
This happened. It happened. Whether you agree, whether we agree with the events of how it happened or what led up to it, it happened.
And I'm hurt by
And
it.
I'm hurt by it.
Mhm.
Yeah. And we need to acknowledge that because we're not going to be able to go forward in this relationship until we acknowledge the elephant in this room.
Mhm.
And they were just so fixated on Noah. I don't know. It's just the most, it was creepy, to be totally honest.
Mhm.
Like I thought they were just really excited to be grandparents. And to be honest, like all this that's going on in the background is such a blur for me. It's mostly Evan telling me stuff that they've said or done, or like I was so sick while I was
Mhm.
pregnant with her. I don't really remember a lot. And so Evan is the one that's really struggling to rebuild this relationship, but somehow it was my fault that they were struggling with Evan in this relationship. And then they were going to move out here and move into a house like in our neighborhood or like near our neighborhood or something. And maybe they were like, no, we don't want to be in your neighborhood. Ha ha ha. We'll be the one beside it or down the street. And
Mhm.
Evan was like, you know, Evan can't hide his face.
Mhm.
And so he was just like, okay, well, we're not, we're rebuilding. Like we're trying to, and they were just so upset by that. And they blame it all on me. And I'm over here just like fighting for my
Yeah,
life.
you're like, listen, I don't mean this in a bad way. Y'all are the
No,
last
literally.
people on my minds right now.
Literally.
And I don't mean that to be ugly, but I'm fighting for my life and for
I
this
don't think
child.
they understood. I think they thought that I was like waking up every morning and be like, how can I fuck with?
Yeah.
Excuse my French, but like, and I was literally waking up like, man, how can I survive today?
Yeah.
And, you know, I'm going to all these doctor's appointments. And then I was high risk because I had hypertension and then I got preeclampsia. So then I was on bed rest and like, they did not care like at all.
Mm.
They just wanted to know when they could come out, when they could do this, what they could buy for the baby. They wanted to see ultrasounds of the baby. They wanted to be the first to know on everything. It was just like, and Evan, he, you know, like, I'm not trying to say all men are bad communicators, but I feel like women are known to be a little better at communicating. And Evan is one of those that really struggles to communicate.
Mhm.
And I'm sorry, but like, I literally couldn't function. I could barely do my job.
Mhm.
much less, I mean, like, my friends will know, like, I didn't do anything. I literally slept all day
Mhm.
and did my job on my computer. That was it. And so they expected, they said that, like, they expected a lot more from me. And I was like, well, I literally had nothing else to give you.
Yeah.
And so as I'm going through all of this and I'm just struggling so hard, I just remember listening to worship music
Mhm.
all day, like every single day. And that is truly like the only thing that got me
Oh,
through.
yeah.
Cause I was like, I have to have something. And I just, yeah. And so I, ended up having her, and, I detail a lot more about like the weirdness that kind of went on with his family
Mhm.
in my testimony. And then we're going to have another episode, like really going more into depth in it. But, um, yeah, that was pretty much, but then I had Noah, and
Yeah.
she was beautiful. 6
She
pounds, 5
is.
ounces.
She's such a little precious
Spitfire.
angel,
Yeah,
spitfire.
she's so
I
sweet.
love her. So yeah, walk us into what postpartum looked like.
Oh my
And
gosh,
I
yeah.
know you covered this in your testimony, but
Mhm.
um I want to spend a good chunk of time on it because it's so raw and real
Yeah.
and vulnerable. And like you said, it's even when you were going through that, when you were pregnant, it and I don't want to put words in your mouth, but it feels like the moms are put on the back burner as far as like care and
Absolutely.
attention, and
Yeah.
postpartum is just like another thing
Yeah.
that
It was like,
plays
it
into.
just, yeah, it was like, oh, well, I didn't need to recover. Like, it was all about the baby. And absolutely, I mean, it is about the
Mm-hmm.
baby, but it's also about the mom too.
Mm-hmm.
And so I gave birth to her, and I had a great birth story. I had a really, I mean, there was like one issue that I had like a really big spike, and then we almost had an
Mm-hmm.
emergency C-section, but for the most part, my labor was pretty good. And, but I was coming off a really hard pregnancy. And so I didn't know how my recovery was going to be. And so I kind of just told everybody as a baseline, even my own family, like, I don't want anybody at the hospital. And I really don't want anybody at the house for that first week. And honestly, I was so focused on like trying to make everything equal because I knew his parents were going to be
Mm-hmm.
so upset if my mom was there, even though she was like my support person. I just didn't want to hurt them anymore. And I shouldn't have cared what they thought anymore, but I still really cared about their feelings and what they wanted. And so I just made it a baseline
Mm-hmm.
of like, no one's coming.
Mm-hmm.
And
Even though in that time, I feel like a lot of women want their
I
mom.
wanted my mom. Of course I
Yeah.
did. Like, I think that's like the hard part is like, of
Mm-hmm.
course I wanted my mom, but I had to like pretend like I didn't
Mm-hmm.
to be fair.
Yeah. And that's unfair
Yeah.
for that pressure to have been placed on you because, yeah, that's such a moment where that's still like for your mom, that's still her baby on the
Yeah.
table, like
And it was
giving
hard for
birth.
her too. She was like,
Yeah.
but she was like, I respect your decision. And
Yeah.
she came and stayed in Raleigh with my sister. She lived there at the time while I was
Mhm.
giving birth. And so, but it was great. And at that time with Evan and I and just Noah, like it
Mhm.
was such a beautiful time. It was such a blissful time. And
Mhm. You're in the newborn
in the
bubble.
newborn bubble, and it
Yeah.
was just so beautiful. And I just remember being like so happy in those initial first days. I mean, the day she was born, I do remember being a little frustrated because I got that text that had said like, thank you for birthing our sweet angel. And it was from his mom. And then they were like cheersing a drink.
Mhm.
And like the whole pregnancy, I'd felt like they treated me almost like a surrogate. I know that
Mhm.
sounds crazy, but I really felt like I was treated like a surrogate. And then when I had talked about this a little bit, but I came home and there were bouquets from people, and there was a dried bouquet from his mom. And I was like, oh, that's nice. Like, that's super nice. I was like, okay. It's like, maybe they're trying. And then later on, looked at the card and it was to Noah. And they were like, we love you so much, Noah. Like,
we can't, we wish we can't, like, something about being, I don't remember
We're
what it
not
was.
allowed to be here,
Pretty much.
but yeah.
Yeah. And I was like, okay, all right, like, whatever. And so then about a week after, I think I maybe had told them 2 weeks, but then after that week, I was feeling good. And so I invited my mom and my brother and my sister. Um, and I talked about this, but my brother had posted on Snapchat that he was like holding Noah, but her face, we don't share their face. And so he was holding her, and I guess somehow the grandma or somebody found his Snapchat and was stalking his Snapchat and saw his story and screenshotted it and sent it to the family and was like, she's making a mockery of you. Uh, and so then his mom freaked out and like called us screaming and called Evan screaming, saying it was like her baby and that it was her blood and she had rights and she's going to miss out on skin to skin bonding. And I've never, I think that is in that moment is like when everything switched postpartum.
Mm.
Like I felt like I went from like that bliss to like full blown protective, like someone's coming after my child. Because like hearing your husband be like, Mom, I can't defend like that. Like, what are you saying? Like, she's not yours. She is 100% herself. She's our baby. Like, what's wrong with you?
You're not, I haven't heard of like a grandma doing skin to skin with a baby unless like maybe the baby needed
Like
extra
warmth or something?
time or you didn't have like the traditional family of like the mom and the dad or two parents
Yeah.
and somebody had to come in and like help them. I don't know, but to
Miss out on that like bonding time.
I understand bonding, but like skin to skin is very personal.
And look, I wasn't on the phone.
Mhm.
Maybe she said bonding. I did not hear that. That was
Okay.
relayed from Evan.
Okay.
So we'll have to ask him about it.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
Sure.
I was just, I was like absolutely in shock.
Mm-hmm.
And he was under the impression, I heard her screaming, but I couldn't hear any
Like what
like,
she was
word.
saying.
And he was just like really freaked out after that call.
Mm.
And when you see like fear in your husband's eye, like there's only been a few times where I've seen fear in Evan's eyes. And it is like, I don't know what it is, but it is terrifying to like see pure fear. And I was like, oh my gosh, okay.
Well, I think too, and this is not like me stereotyping marriages to be a certain way, but like you look to your husband as your protector and your provider and you're like, yeah, the stronghold and the leader of the house. And it's like when they're scared, it's like my foundation
is at risk.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think it would put you, I could imagine it feels fearful and even just on high alert to see that.
And I also felt like, okay, well now it's my job to like protect my baby. And I just felt like I was under attack again. And yeah, they just ended up freaking out and they were still going to come out. And
at this point, did you feel like it wasn't safe for them to be around her? Okay. Because not safe as
I don't think they would ever do anything to her. They loved her.
Unpredictable behavior.
I felt so uncomfortable with them that I was like, I don't know, when you're a new mom and like that, like your hormones are so crazy. And they hated me, like hated me. I just didn't want that person like around my baby, And so when that whole thing happened, then I kind of switched into this, like, I feel like I did have terrible postpartum. So I remember going to the doctor and like my midwife was just like, oh my gosh, I've never seen this before. And I outlined all of that like in my story. And I just remember being like, God, why am I thinking these horrible thoughts? Like, it was never, anything like, oh, I want to hurt my baby. It was never that. Thank the Lord. It was more of like, what if I accidentally hurt my baby?
Like intrusive thoughts.
Yes. Like,
Yeah.
oh my gosh, they were calling me possessed at one point and a narcissist and like all these things. And I was like,
What if I
what if I
am?
am? Like, what if I am possessed? And I drown her on accident because I'm possessed. Like,
Mackenzie, that's
and
so hard.
it was horrible. I was at my my lowest.
In a time where it's supposed to be. Did
Yeah.
And I don't want to create a narrative here, but did you feel like that time from you was
Was robbed.
robbed?
Yeah, I actually said that in
Oh,
my
you
testimony.
did?
Like that I felt like the most incredible and important and sweet but hard times in your life was completely taken.
Mm-hmm.
And we were robbed of that time. And what happened after we decided to cut contact with them based on not just our own I mean, we had a marriage. I had an individual therapist. I had a postpartum therapist. We had a marriage counselor at this point. And then we also had my midwife and then my OB. All decided. All of them were talking because I was probably one break from an inpatient facility. Like it was that bad. And they were like, you can't have this in your life. Like it's not.
Not at this moment.
No.
Yeah.
And Evan was like, yeah, I already decided I'm going to break it off. Like we're going to have to cut contact for now. Like if this is getting too much, because it was like suffocating. Like the text, the calls, the this, the that, like
It's like harassment to some degree.
Yeah.
So looking back at that now, at that time that you felt like that was robbed from you, and rightfully so, because I probably would feel the same way. How, and I don't know if you're at a place right like now, but how did you find forgiveness for that, or how, are you still working on that?
I like to say I've fully forgiven, but I do feel like I have fully forgiven, but I still have moments of this like very visceral anger or frustration or rage that comes out. And I talk to my therapist about this quite often. I think it's like she explains it almost like it's not that I haven't forgiven them. It's that I have so much trauma from everything that occurred that it's like a scab or like a wound that's healed. So it's scabbed over. And at that point it was like an open wound, right? And it was bleeding and I was trying to stop the bleeding, but it just kept getting worse, worse, worse. And then I finally start to heal and I put a scab. It's now scabbed over. But anything big enough is going to push that back off. So I felt like the scab kept getting taken off of it. And because of things they did. And, we'll get into that in another episode, but things that they did that made me feel less and less safe and less protected. And, I kept going back to the drawing board of healing. And so now I think I'm at a point where I have a scar. And the scar is still a fresh scar, even though it's been 4 or 5, I guess almost 3 years with Noah. But
since the no contact, but not since.
Not since it all happened. And so I have like a scar. And sometimes even things I don't even think that will relate to them, have nothing to do with them, just a way a friend makes me feel, or somebody says something, or I smell a certain thing.
It triggers me.
Like there's certain Mexican food, or sorry, oh gosh. No, Mexican food, which I don't know why. I think it's because we went to this Mexican restaurant in Arizona when I went out there, and really weird. But there's this like specific smell that I only smell in a Mexican restaurant, and it just triggers the shit out of me.
Yeah.
I'll have like a panic attack.
Wow.
So I don't really love to go in a Mexican restaurant. I don't know what it is.
Yeah.
But the brain does weird. And so I worked with an OCD specialist, postpartum OCD specialist for about 8 months, 6 to 8 months after all of that. And that really helped a lot. And I really just prayed, like tried to strengthen my faith. And I think at that point, God really started to show up. Like I started to hear him more, whereas I never really heard him before. And I detail different parts of my testimony, but the suicidal parts, I think that was the hardest part of like feeling like, well, maybe I just shouldn't be here. But then God being like showing me my baby and like remember like him softly being like, no, you are needed here.
Mhm.
And it just, yeah,
Oh,
I know.
that's so
It's
heavy and
heavy. It's
so
so heavy.
hard, but so redemptive too. To see
It
where you are
is.
now.
Oh my gosh, I know how far I've come.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Is there any advice you would give? Obviously, I feel like your situation is
It's
very
unique. Yeah.
individualized and unique, but postpartum is not.
No,
It's
it's
very,
not.
it is, but for the most part, it's common for women to struggle
Yeah.
through postpartum.
Well, and I think that I had a very extreme situation and had very extreme postpartum side effects. Like, had I not gone through that situation, I don't know what would have happened.
Mhm.
But there's also people who have a perfect birth and then have an extreme postpartum
Mhm.
reaction. And that is also absolutely normal. And
Mhm.
that happens. And not normal in the sense of you don't need help, but you know,
You're not alone.
you're not alone. Exactly. There's people who go through this regardless of your circumstance. And so my biggest advice is to get support. Make sure you're fully supported in who your birth team is, who your support system is post birth. So whether like don't let anybody else influence that. Like you're not going to, and you're also not going to make people happy. You are always going to disappoint someone. I promise that when it comes to the birth of a child, someone is going to get
Isn't
upset.
that wild?
Yeah. Like if a friend is going to be upset that they didn't see somebody, like even if they don't voice it, I promise you, someone is going to be upset.
At a time where I feel like everyone should surround the family, the baby, and the mother with complete selflessness.
Mm-hmm.
And truly, it's like people just it's like they get so wacky during that time.
Weird.
And really make it about themselves. And it's like, this is when you come to someone with complete humility and selflessness.
How can I serve
help? Exactly. How can I honor this new life?
And it's not also if people are telling you that you are narcissistic or wrong for needing space or time for yourself after giving birth. Well, just in general, before that you're not, but especially after you're giving birth. That is just false. There is every medical practitioner that I've spoken to has said absolutely not. Like, you have to put yourself because who's going to take care of that baby
if you're not taking care of yourself? And there's something to be said about those sacred, quiet moments between just you, your partner, and your baby, where you're bonding and it's quiet and there's no outside noise. And I understand, like, I wanted my mom to be there. I wanted my family to meet. Phoebe, my labor and delivery room was packed full of friends and family, which is like wild now that I think about it. Because Tate was during COVID, so it was totally different. But I remember those quiet moments in the hospital when it was just us. And it was like,
special.
Honor that. And I couldn't, and I love my family, but I could not wait for everybody to leave. Not because I didn't want them there, because I was so overwhelmed.
You were tired and exhausted.
I was tired. And I feel like we do need to honor that as women. And if you need a moment to be tired and to just have that quiet time with your family, that doesn't make you selfish.
No. And on the flip side, if you are one of those people that's like, oh no, fill me up, like the room. If you want everyone there, if you want your mother-in-law, like one of my best friends, her mother-in-law helped catch, she's a labor and delivery nurse. She helped catch her baby.
That's wonderful.
That's amazing. Like, that is great.
Do it.
Just know there's not one right way.
That idea is supported a lot more in society than the other.
Yeah.
And that's the thing that I think we're trying to say is both can be normal.
Yeah.
Like normalized and
what the
however,
mom needs.
Yes. However you need it, both can be supported.
And it's not selfish to have needs. It's really not. We all have needs. So
absolutely.
It took me a while to kind of come around to that idea that I wasn't being selfish and needing to be alone for that first week, and yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Jesus went to be alone all the time to pray and have quiet time. There's nothing wrong with it.
Yeah. Yeah.
In fact, I would argue it's
probably better.
Yeah, and needed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
At least for me, it was better. That's what I needed. Exactly what I needed. So
looking back, what kind of grace do you think would that be? The grace you would show yourself?
The grace is like girl, you're not a narcissist.
You're not possessed.
Also, my therapist said, yeah, I'm not possessed. Thank the Lord. My therapist said to me she was like, Mackenzie, I've been seeing you for 6 years. I think it was 6 years at the time. And she was like, first of all, I've never written narcissist down one time. So that should make you feel a little better. And she's like, also, may I just like let you on a little secret. I've never had a narcissist think that they were a narcissist. Yeah, and I was like, okay, I feel a lot better. Okay.
No, most narcissists are not worried about being a narcissist.
I was like, oh my gosh, am I? And Camille, sweet Camille, she's like, girl, no. I was like, but I do have, like, I was being a little selfish. Like, I was having these tendencies.
Look, I think we all have narcissistic tendencies.
Yeah.
It's based on
maybe I do.
survival
I know,
skills,
exactly.
but not to that degree.
No. So that is definitely the grace I would give.
Oh, I
myself.
love that.
Yeah.
Well, that's such a good way to wrap up part 3,
Yes.
to find the light in the darkness. So cheers to that, and cheers to you.
Oh, thank you. I love you.
I love you.
Thanks for being here with us today. If something resonated, maybe a sentence, a silence, or a story, hold on to that. If you felt seen or stirred or simply curious, we hope you'll join us again. Until then, stay open, stay tender, and remember, there's always a seat for you at the table.